Welcome back, class. Today we're going to be continuing for one last time with perspective. Up to this point, we've drawn 1-point perspective boxes, and all of you now know that 1-point perspective is when a plane is parallel to the picture plane. We've done 2-point perspective boxes. That's, we know, when there's a leading edge or corner of a box is the only thing parallel, so both sides converge into space. Therefore, it's 2-point perspective. And so all of you understand those things. We've been talking about sighting with a stick in terms of measuring height and width and getting our angles. So all of you should be very familiar with that. Today in the class, we're going to be doing a project that's more creative, but using those ideas. So today we're going to be doing boxes, but these boxes can be made up from your head, or if you want to use a reference, you can. If you have a box at home, which all of you should have from drawing your stack of boxes, you can use a small box and you can look at that box from various angles as I'm about to explain this project. So what we're going to do with the project behind me is what you will see is here on the paper is the idea. Now, this idea, which I'm about to explain, in the assignment, you will find a link to an artist known as Al Held. He's an American painter, and he did a series of boxes, but his were out of paint, sometimes black on white, sometimes white on black, and sometimes color. And you can look at his designs and watch how creative he is with these. I'm giving you an idea here, but you can look at others online. Now, when you look at the one I have on the board is what you're going to be doing with yours. You're going to be taking your 16 by 20 Strathmore paper. Do not do this on newsprint. It's got to be on better paper. If some of you have larger paper like 18 by 24, use it. If you only have the 16 by 20, that's what I need you to use. On that paper, this outer edge I have right here is representing your paper. So that outer edge is your paper, so I've got the paper turned horizontally. This inside line is a big frame of reference. I've got it just a little darker than the outside edge. You guys are going to be drawing on your paper with a yardstick a frame of reference. That frame of reference wants to be 1/2 inch thick all the way around. So it's going to be a 1/2 inch on the top, 1/2 inch on the side, 1/2 inch on the bottom, and 1/2 inch on this side. So all the way around, you make that border. That's going to represent your frame of reference. Do not do this without putting the frame of reference on there. And I need the frame of reference big, so as big as your paper, so we're coming in a 1/2 inch. That's crucial for the project. This project is what will happen, and it will all be spelled out in the assignment. You are going to start it with pencil, and you can start it with a hard pencil, and you're going to draw boxes, very much like I have here. Yours can move in any direction you want, and some of the criteria, I'm going to mention it verbally, but it'll also all be written out for you when you look at it in the assignment. You can use boxes, and you can hold the box, and you can look like this particular one. We're looking up at it, as all you see is the bottom. Some of them are turned to the left, some of them are turned to the right. Some of them, or in this case only one, but some of them you can make transparent, where you're drawing through it lightly. Some of them should be real big, like this one behind is real big. This one behind that one is real big. This one running through, real big, real big. So the idea is you're going to be using big boxes, middle-sized boxes. If you want to use a few small ones, that's good. They're going to be tilted at various angles. Some you're looking up at. This one I have you looking down at. This one is kind of floating on top of it, but you're looking down at it. So they're in all different positions and directions. Now, you can also use in this assignment, which I haven't had you do yet, you can crop things. Cropping something means it's running off. This one runs out of the frame, okay? This large one underneath all of these runs out, so it stops. That's called cropping. So I've got one cropped from above, cropped on the right. This one's cropped a little here, my little line going above my line. Again, if you crop things, sometimes you might want to figure out where they're going and then draw it. That's what I did with this. I would figure out things. And you can overlap. So this box is in front of this box. This box is in front of this one. This is in front of this, and this is in front of this. So you want to use overlapping. You want to use cropping, size differences, and boxes looking up and down and straight at. So all of this, you're going to try to imagine how you're going to do it. One of the ways we can do this, after you look at Al Held's ideas online, you can come up with a couple of thumbnail sketches. Draw a little frame of reference and just draw some boxes in there of how you might want to arrange them, get an idea. That's called a thumbnail sketch. We've done some of those in the past. Then once you have an idea, draw it out large. When you first draw it out, you're going to draw it out with a 2H pencil so you don't see the line much. Now, I'm doing it like this so that you can see it. This is in charcoal. Yours is on white paper, not tone paper. And it's with pencil. So once you draw it out with pencil, and the angles to the boxes work. In other words, even though they're made up, this angle works to that angle, this angle parallel to that angle. So your angles work. This angle works to that angle. Try to get them right when they look right and they're believable. Then you're going to go on to stage 2. The next part is what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 markers. One's going to be a Sharpie and a thin point, and one's going to be a little thicker. I had that on the materials list, and most of you would have something like that around. You're going to separate these boxes once they're drawn by 2 different line types, one thick and one thin. Is what I do not want you to do with it is have on one box use 2 different types of lines. You don't want to do that. Whatever box it is, it's either all dark lines or it's all thin lines, or I should say all thick lines or all thin lines. Some people bring up, they say, oh, I have a marker that's blue and another one black. That's okay. As long as if it's a thick blue marker, all of the ones are done in blue that are thick and the other ones a different color and it's thinner. That will work. So, is what I'm going to show you with this is I'm just using charcoal. And I'm going to take some of these boxes, and I'm going to take the ones furthest away, and I'm going to choose to use a thick line. You could do yours however you want. But as what will happen is, as soon as I start to make some of them with thicker lines, those boxes will bind and group together. And the ones with the thinner lines will bind and group together. So you're going to start to create a pattern. So I could make my smaller ones that I have look like they're floating by making the back ones darker. I can make the back ones lighter and make these thicker, and then that'll feel like it actually goes back further. So there's a lot of ways you can do it and set up these patterns. So I'm going to start with this box, and I'm going to come up with a very thick line, and I'm going to use my bigger boxes because with the charcoal and for you to see the difference of the line, I've got to make it pretty substantial. And I want you to see the difference on the smaller boxes. It would fill them in too much. So this box behind, I pretty much got it as now a thicker box. So this thick line is starting to separate from my other lines. But I'm going to continue even with the box in front of it because it's a big box. And I'm going to make it with a thick line too. So I can get all the boxes I have in the back with the same line consistency. And make sure your lines, when you go over it with the marker, make sure they're very straight and neat. I'm just going to freehand this thing, but make sure yours are very neat, okay? So now we've got 2 boxes done that way, and so those 2 boxes are going to start to unite and group together because of the line darkness and the line weight. So I'm going to continue with it, and I'm going to take this one and do the same, because what I want to do is take the smaller boxes in the design, and I want them to feel like they're hovering in front of the rest of them. So I'm going to continue through with that idea. And again, however you can imagine yours, you can do them in so many different ways, and that's the fun of it. This project is a little more creative than the other boxes I've had you do. So you can have fun with this, okay? So anyways, there's 3 of the boxes, and as you can see, as I start to group those, these start to separate a little more and more. So I'm going to take the big one that I have back here, and I'm going to do the same with it. And we'll have it settled in a moment here. One more line on this box. Then I'm going to look at it a little bit from a distance and decide if I'm going to leave it like this or add one more thing to it. Okay. Now I pretty much have my biggest boxes done with the thicker lines. So now what happens is, rather than all the boxes going together on the same level, is what begins to happen is all the ones with the darker lines begin to group together, which separates these because those are a little different and a little thinner. Yours on the white paper will have much stronger of a presence because this will be white, these will be extremely dark and thick, or whatever ones you choose. And of course the lines on the other boxes are going to be thin, so it's going to set off a little bit more of a contrast between those. So again, with this project, you're going to be as creative as you can with these boxes and their arrangement. And one of the other things that I forgot to mention is you want to fill the space the way that I did. The negative space, as it's called, in between the boxes, I tried to lighten it up just a little. Like this is a negative space, that's a negative space, that's a negative space. This is actually all a box back here. So these are all coming together. This is a negative space, and that's all the negative space I have. So it's like maybe 20% or less. I want yours to be the same. I want yours to be filled with boxes. There can be some negative space, but not much. If you had none, that's fine. If you had big boxes and they start to overlap all of them, that's fine. You can have some negative space, but not the larger percentage. I wanted at least 88% boxes, and the rest can be the negative space that's there. So basically, that's it. Look at the assignment online, look at Al Held, and if you need to, refer back to this, and I will see you in the next lesson.